Have you ever wondered about the role of data in smart cities? Well, yes, when we talk about smart cities or cities of future, it's all over data because a lot of data already is being collected, more will be collected. It, of course, creates or generates concerns around privacy, and there's also an opportunity to leverage data based on emerging technologies like AI. So, how about understanding what role is data going to play in cities of future? What are the privacy concerns? What kind of skill set the governments or civil servants have? And also, the fact is, are they going to use AI emerging technologies? So, for this, we go and talk to none other than someone who is a specialist in this field. That means the field of smart cities and a consultant in that area. I'm talking about none other than Matteo Satta, who is a consultant, specialized consultant, and going to share his views on all these topics. So let's have this fascinating conversation.
Hello, and welcome to the Fit for Privacy Podcast with Punit Bhatia. This is the podcast for those who care about their privacy. Here, your host, Punit Bhatia, has conversations with industry leaders about their perspectives, ideas, and opinions relating to privacy, data protection, and related matters. Be aware that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are not legal advice. Let us get started.
So here we are with Matteo Satta. Matteo, welcome to Fit for Privacy Podcast.
Yeah, thank you to you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here with you.
Thank you so much. And you're working with European governments or European institutes on building smart cities. Can you describe what do you exactly do, broadly speaking?
Yes, now I like better talking about cities than smart cities. For me, the idea is that we have a lot of cities that are really complex ecosystems that are today facing a number of challenges. Mostly the two biggest ones of the last around 20 years are the digital transition first and now the climate transition. And my role mostly is to support innovation, often starting from the digital world, let's say, to support cities, to improve what they do, to try to align to a world that is moving fast. And my major role is often to build innovation projects that fit to cities and supporting them to work together also, not just city by city, but supporting the different cities working together around this to help them exchanging knowledge between themselves and moving forward, or at least faster than how it would be without this kind of tools and actions.
Okay, that's interesting. And in a city of future, as we talk about future cities, whether smart cities or normal cities, I think one of the important things would be data would play a key role. Any city that we talk about in future would have a lot of data collection, data usage. So, what is the role of data in cities of future, according to you?
Now, that's a very good question, a very complicated one to answer, but I'll try. I mean, in cities today, we can have various levels, but let's try to cut it in two. One is the city administration, which is the one that works and try to bring everything together to support the citizens. The other part of the stakeholders, starting from citizens, but then going to companies and so on, have collected a lot in this field with or without the administration, which on the other side has its own data. Today, then we are in front of, for a city, the biggest issue is to collect and have all the data very, making sure also to respect. This is something that is today becoming a big challenge for cities because they're trying basis build private public groups. I mean the partnerships with all the local stakeholders, making sure that they can collect the data, anonymizing it normally, to make and provide the right services to citizens and the stakeholders themselves. Now, what is the biggest problem today is the trust of people in cities. People often don't trust the city administration. They like better. As an example, if I'm a private operator and they go like a mobile operator, a social media, the ones that collect a lot of data, actually, now we all know that people are much more ready to do so with them than with the city administration. Then cities often have a lot of data that is not always that useful because it's maybe, a lot of data about administrative or administrations, and they struggle having of data can have data in the future is making sure that the data that is collected anyway can support cities. We have in cities a lot of projects that happen. We have today a lot of projects, innovation projects, like about sensoring and so on. We have an example in Toronto a few years ago with Google, in which they tried in a district to create some sensor district in which all data, new data was collected and so on, and it was a miserable failure. It didn't work like that. The only role that data can have for city administrations is to try to support the citizens with the data that they create themselves anyway, in the most cases, and in case maybe putting something on top of that. I can have obviously another project that maybe covers a hole that is today there, but mostly most of the data, like the traffic data, is there. And then the role of data is creating partnerships. Making sure that the city starts cooperating around data, making sure the data becomes, on one side, useful for working, and on the other side, for respecting, also to support, let's say, the privacy. Making sure that people are protecting from uses that maybe are not exactly the best ones possible. We're still far away from that, to be really honest, because we're missing a business model between companies and cities. There is no business model today, and often cities don't have the budgets on one side, and on the other side, data is too expensive. Then we're still working on that.
Okay. And when you say that data is being collected and there are some privacy concerns, so what kind of concerns, privacy concerns are there around data? Because some of the data is for legitimate purpose, as it's for the administration of the city and it's for the government to take it. But what kind of concerns do citizens have around privacy?
I'm not even sure that there is a real concern. Obviously, the concerns about data are always the same ones, right? In the sense that there is someone collecting it, storing this data somewhere, and the data needs to be, let's say, safe, right? And this happens a lot. Today, I live in France, and I know that in France right now there are a lot of big companies or even public administration that are hacked, and the data of the people can be taken and used maybe in the wrong way. When I talk about having a good use, it's just that the difference between the private and the public sector is that the public sector doesn't have a real interest in making money out of data, right? That's because the public sector doesn't do profit. The role of the public sector is to support the use of data, just to provide a service, a solution or something. And often the data anonymized is much better to be managed by them than not. While companies may have another interest in using data, obviously, for marketing purposes, for any reasons. It's not really harming the security of people, but it's anyway using it for some reasons. And some people often don't even know that they are providing data. No, they just there is a service, and then actually it's not totally for free. I think that cities, like governments, and because cities are local governments at the end, like governments, like any other public entity, I think have the role to try to get out of this data that has already been paid by the citizens, by the way, because that's provided by the city by the citizens should be used because the cities are paid by the citizens. Okay, I don't know if I'm explaining all right. It's a circle. Then the best thing, there is no real a problem of privacy in the sense of incredible thing happening next to hacking or this kind of thing that I'm not going to talk about this because I'm not an expert or cyber security or so on. But at the same time, we have a circle that's a bit vicious because we have citizens making pay the data. Letting the data for free, okay, in exchange of some service. And this point, then normally the city has to pay this data again and creating a circle that is not completely fair. And that's what I think cities and governments should try to tackle somehow, finding a business models with the private operators and having a role in this. Today they don't have it. Today they just buy some data sometimes. I don't know if
Okay.
I answered to your question like this.
No, you did openly state the reality. And I think government does have a legitimate reason to process data, but the fact is it must be protected. And when it's shared or exchanged with another city or maybe a third party or a private entity, then there are some rules that need to be respected. But when we talk about data, there's also the leveraging or utilization of data. And there we have new emerging technologies like machine learning, robotics, or artificial intelligence coming up. And
Mhm.
are these at the moment being utilized to leverage data, or will there be a utilization of these in future?
Okay, now to talk about today, cities today, the cases of cities really using, not just pretending to use for what we call territorial marketing technologies, using data and going beyond having a simple data portal or something like that are a few, are really few, not many. Honestly, almost no one has really. There are some chatbots or chat GPT solutions that are trying to be pushed. Some digital twins, then creating visualizations of data for public will. This is something that is happening. But if we want to go further, we're still not there for a number of reasons that are very complicated to explain. But on one side, the technology maybe is not yet much enough to support the cities. On the other side, cities don't have the skilling. These technologies are still quite expensive, and cities may not be able to pay for them, and so on. For the future, this is more interesting because we are moving forward. Cities understood the challenge. They want to go there. They're trying to go there. They are still learning how to do, but the European Commission in this case and so on are helping them a lot. Also now, I don't know if you know, but there is a dedicated mission for cities that is called 100 Climate Neutral and Smart Cities, in which the Commission wants to support the climate neutrality, let's say, path, but using digital technologies. This is very interesting, and this is coming, and we start going towards mostly there is an important, let's say, mm, mm, concept that is coming out. That is a technology, by the way. That is the cityverse, which is the metaverse,
Yeah.
but for the city, trying to digitalize and visualize with, kind of digital twin technologies and so on the full on the full structure of the city, making sure that uh, an administrator, a decision maker, a policy maker, or whoever is able to use such technologies to visualize what's happening, but better to visualize what may happen if I do something of some kind. What can be the consequences? Then such technologies are moving on, but I said the first barrier to this is not having a cityverse in itself, in the sense that technology is there, you can, but data maturity of cities is not good enough yet. And there is this, as I was explaining earlier, there is this problem of business model with the companies that often hold the data that should be useful for that. And we have these two, and the third one is the skilling. Often civil servants are not yet skilled enough to be able to fully exploit such technologies. And I would add a fourth point, which is the cost. These technologies are very costly, and normally the budgets of cities are still a bit archaic in the sense that you still have all the expenses that used to happen, but now you have this extra cost and there are no funds. Then obviously they can get something at European level and so on, but it's not enough at all because these are millions of euros that need to be put on the table to guarantee such technologies, at least for now.
Okay, that makes sense. In fact, I wanted to understand if the governments or the civil servants have enough knowledge about data and data leverage technologies, but you answered that it is not the case. And there I like to follow up. Is there something being done to bridge the knowledge gap?
Now, let's say that 10 years ago, we were in a completely different situation. 10 years ago, giving Excel file to some departments was kind of a shock for them. We see an improvement. And
Mhm.
obviously, moving on with time improves this more and more for two reasons. One, obviously, the civil servants get younger in the sense that you have some that retire and some others that come in, and the ones coming in are native digitals that this helps a lot first. And on the other side, people start getting used to see more and more data. We start injecting a platform that maybe uses data, and then they get used more and more. I would say that policymakers and decision makers become tougher and tougher. There are training courses that happen and so on. The biggest issue is, as an example, having data analysts or data scientists and so on for two reasons again. One is economical. I mean, a data scientist and a data analyst is very requested on the market today, not just for cities, for everyone. And they are much more attracted by companies that can pay, I don't know, two, three times, four times the wage first. And second, because can be also the projects that you go driving. And city are sometimes maybe more interesting and so on because you have working for a public body has uh, not limitations, but it's public. Public money has to be used in a particular way and so on. There is a number of things that can happen. Then we are going towards a more digital civil servant for sure. At the same time, the process will be quite long also because of the labor rules of the public sector that are completely different by private. I cannot say now I'm hiring 30 data scientists because I decided to do so. I need to tender that and so on, and have limitations and so on that come from the government. Then cities, this is happening. On the other side, the projects cities are taking on digital technologies and so on, the ones that I was describing earlier, obviously help a lot the existing ones to improve what they are doing. I mean, to improve what they're doing. But today, to be very honest, what I can see is that often the data strategies of cities are not done by the cities themselves, or at least they give the input, but you have consultants often jumping in and give. And when I call about consultants, I'm not talking about a single person. Often I'm talking about companies that check in and do the job for them, which on one side is okay. I mean, there is nothing against consultants, but at the same time, we are missing an important point for me, that is the internalization. I mean, internalizing such processes and knowledges, know-hows is much more important than just giving to someone that is not part of the organization in any cases, and then maybe may miss something for a number of reasons.
That makes sense. It makes up an interesting environment in cities because one, there is a lot of data. Two, there is a need for having a better strategy. Three, there is also a skill set issue. And then the fourth, there is also an intent to do something. So it's, even though the skill is not there, the strategy is not so strong, there's still an intent to leverage data. And the drive is coming from the European Union. So it's an interesting or fascinating environment. And also with the digital strategy that the EU has for 2050 and the climate strategy, I think there's a lot of opportunity to leverage and a lot of laws to leverage data in an effective manner or govern the data in an effective manner. So it's going to be interesting and fascinating environment in next 10 to 20 years, it seems.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's clear that we have a complex ecosystem. We have a number of levels that are very different because also Europe is trying to drive this in countries because first of getting to cities they need to go to countries. The only issue I think that it's the usual European problem. We have different speeds in countries. Then you go in some countries, they have good data strategies. Even in cities, they're much better than in other countries. While in others, they're still struggling because there are also national or regional burdens that or bottlenecks that can create not obstacle, but at the same time, they're, I mean, not allowing to speed up this as much as it should be.
I think anyhow, data is a complex, or managing or governing data or leveraging data are complex matters. It's not that only the public authorities are struggling. Even I've seen large corporates having to struggle in setting up data governance and data management strategy, because 10 years ago we were saying let's have data governance, but now we are also saying data governance with privacy protection, with cyber security, with the compliance for EU AI Act. And that's where the compliance burden or the compliance needs also come in. And I don't look at it burden as a burden, but also as a need, because citizens are asking for it. Citizens want to know what data you have, what you do with it, and why do you have it, and how will it be protected. So it doesn't make an easy case, and it's equally challenging for both private and public sector. The public sector, it becomes a bit more difficult because the volume of data is very high. But I think we have a fascinating future in front of us. Would you like to share one final message in this conversation? Somebody listening to it?
But listen, I think that I think it's very interesting what you said just now about private and public sector are struggling because data is really uh, complex. I think that data in cities represent the complexity of cities. I
Yeah.
think that cities would be complex anyway, even without data. The data that we are seeing is really representing this. Also, its fragmentation is representing also the fragmentation, the social fragmentation that we have in cities. That comes from a lot of levels. The message is, I think that in any case, we got the right direction. It's a long way because it's a revolution. That's a new industrial revolution, I would say, is one of data and digital transition. And the climate transition is on top of that. Then I think that the message is that we're doing the right things, right moves. It will take time. We will need obviously to speed it up, but I think the direction is correct. And we are trying to, we understood what is the way. Now we have to take it.
Okay, that's a very good message. We know what we have to do and we are doing it. And maybe if we put a bit of speed, we will have more effect. So,
Absolutely. I
with
totally
that,
agree.
Matteo, I would say thank you so much for your time and wonderful insight about how cities are being governed and what role data is playing and what kind of privacy concerns citizens have. So it was wonderful to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you to you, Punit. It was interesting first to have this because I like a lot talking about this, and second, it's thank you for the space and for the visibility that you give me in this session.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening. If you liked the show, feel free to share it with a friend and write a review. If you have already done so, thank you so much. And if you did not like the show, don't bother and forget about it. Take care and stay safe. Fit4Privacy helps you to create a culture of privacy and manage risks by creating, defining, and implementing a privacy strategy that includes delivering scenario-based training for your staff. We also help those who are looking to get certified in CIPPE, CIPM, and CIPT through on-demand courses that help you prepare and practice for certification exam. Want to know more? Visit www.fit4privacy.com. That's www.fit4privacy.com. If you have questions or suggestions, drop an email at hello@fit4privacy.com. Until next time, goodbye.